welcome to What Would Larry Do? I am Dr. Ann, and I am here with Larry Hellwig. Good morning.
Good morning.
Bright and early.
Yep.
We have another fun topic today.
Yes.
So we always record 2 at a time, and the first one we did this morning was near and dear to Larry's heart. We talked about hair. Oh, yes. He's here with his wonderfully new haircut that he showed up with this week.
Yeah, I didn't mean to go quite that far.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I'm not going to lie. I walked in the office and I'm like, what are we doing here? What happened?
Got a little crazy with the razor.
Mm-hmm. So our next topic this morning is near and dear to my heart because it's something that I struggle with all the time. So we're going to talk about rosacea. So we have briefly touched on this topic in the past as part of a larger podcast on vascular issues. But today we're really going to dive into rosacea, talk about rosacea, talk about what you can do to fix it, treat it, talk about what can happen if you don't. So we're just going to kind of start from there. And so, Larry, tell me a little bit about what rosacea is.
Well, it's a neurovascular disorder, so that's the beginning. Mm-hmm. There are different stages of rosacea. There's a lot going on with rosacea. But it's a chronic neurovascular disorder, so it involves blood, it involves lymph, it involves nerves. But basically, the way we kind of think about it is the big red face. So if you see people walking around with a big red nose, big red face, they have rosacea. And if we can go into how it starts,
yeah. So that's good. We can kind of dive right into, what are some of the characteristics of it and what are the stages of it. Number one, we really don't know what causes it. There's probably a genetic link. There's a bunch of weird theories out there. But just so you know, if you have it, you have it. And if you don't, you don't. And we don't really know why. I always say it's kind of like the doctor's answer for autoimmune diseases in the world. Rosacea is like that. So stage 0, or what we call pre-rosacea, is where you just get flushing and blushing. So tell us a little bit about stage 0, Larry.
what happens is you have a trigger of some kind. You might have alcohol, a couple glasses of wine. You could have a workout. You could go do a aggressive workout. It might be from stress. It could be from caffeine. So there's a number of different triggers that really affect rosacea. But they also, the early days, which is like pre-rosacea, called flushing and blushing, where you get red for a period of time and then the red goes away. And basically what you have is vasodilation of the vessels of your face, or whatever the area is that we're talking about, and then constriction. And the good news is you get constriction so that you don't stay red. And it's where people start to notice that something's not normal. It might be where you're at a party and you have a couple glasses of wine and you look like Rudolph from across the room.
Or literally, my whole face would look sunburnt. It was it was shocking. It started happening to me in college, so it's not like I could get away with drinking and people not knowing because, you know, you have a bright red face. And actually, mine is my face and my chest. So my neck would stay normal color, red face, white neck, red chest. It looked like a candy cane stripe on the way down. And I finally, over the years, learned that certain alcohols do it and certain ones don't. So I would avoid the alcohols that would make me super red. And it's not just that you're red, you are hot. Like, it actually feels hot. It feels irritated. It is red when it happens to those of us. But actually for me, once I was diagnosed with rosacea and I realized what it was, I can tell you my pre-rosacea began when I was a child. When it was like 4th, 5th grade, we'd have track and field day. You know, we'd have to run our mile, do our thing. We'd come in after class. My face would stay red for like an hour or an hour and a half. Everybody else looked fine. And the teacher would always be like, "Are you okay? Are you feeling okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah, why?" You know, and I didn't have a mirror. I'm in 4th grade, but my face was bright red. And yeah, so I had the signs and symptoms as a small child.
And this happens to a lot of people. I mean, in Arizona, and I'm sure this is no different than other states, but maybe because of the sun, the heat, the whatever, we see this all the time, and people come in complaining, that they get red.
Yeah.
Well, again, the vascular component, if vessels dilate, you're going to appear more red, whether it's your chest or your neck or your face or whatever. And that's what you're dealing with. And so that's the issue of what do you do to do something about it. But that is like pre-rosacea.
Yes. And the other sign and symptom of pre-rosacea is sensitivity to a lot of products. So if you use lots of different facial products and they tend to irritate your skin, tend to make you break out, that can be a sign and symptom of diagnosing early pre-rosacea as well as skin sensitivity. So that's pre-rosacea. So then we get to stage 1, if we want to throw up our stage 1 photo, which this is more of an extreme version of stage 1. But this is what's known as erythema and telangiectasias. So this is a before and after. But if you look at the gentleman on the left, that is a stage 1 rosacea, where he's red, where he has all these little veins on his cheek. And we're going to talk about how we treat it afterwards, because obviously on the right was his after photo. But that's stage 1. So erythema meaning redness, and telangiectasia meaning actual broken vessels on the face or wherever they have rosacea.
And they tend to be red all the time. They may get more red with certain circumstances, again, triggers and what have you, but they tend to have a reddish glow, if you will, all the time.
Yep.
And so they're the ones that, you can't just wait for your color to come back. You can't just, okay, give me an hour, 2 hours, I'll be fine. It doesn't get to happen for these folks. So it has progressed from flushing and blushing to actual stage 1 rosacea, and where the vessels are dilated, somewhat dilated all the time. And if you think about it, vessels are, under normal conditions, they're dilating and constricting, dilating, constricting, dilating, constricting. As they tend to wear out, they may stay more dilated. And so you have this, basically a dilation problem, where you are more red all the time.
Yeah. I have a girlfriend whose husband has this because he works out in the sun all the time. And anytime we take group pictures, he wants us to put a filter on it so he doesn't look red. I mean, it's obvious, he knows it's a problem, but it's hard sometimes to get them to come in and correct it. And I'm like, you do know that I have something for that, right?
And when you look at these folks carefully, which we do during consultations, and we have technology that will, zoom in, and I mean, you can make the smallest little vessel look like a river of blood, but the idea is you are looking at all of it. And what's this look like, and what's going on with it, and you start looking and seeing all these vessels all over the face, all over the nose, and they're not going to get any smaller ever on their own.
No.
And so this is something that, the time to treat is really pre-rosacea with the flushing and blushing, because it's already started. The vessels are already there, or many of them are, and it's a great time to treat because it's easier, a little bit less aggressive. You may not have to do as many treatments, but over time, what happens? You get more and more vessels, and these vessels do grow. I mean, they can become like Godzilla and take over your face, right? Your whole face. And I have seen that where it looks like you literally have leg veins on your face.
Yes.
They're so big and so many, and that becomes obviously a very aggressive treatment, and, quite a number of treatments in order to actually clear all that. And if you don't clear all that, what happens? It just continues to get bigger and worse.
Yeah. Actually, my mom had veins. They weren't full-blown leg veins on her face, but she had this patch of veins on her cheek. And when I first started in this industry, like 14 years ago, she came in for other things. And I was like, hey, Mom, can I take care of those veins on your cheek? She's like, yeah, but they don't really bother me. But if you just need practice with the lasers, go ahead, use my face. I treated them. They went away. And 2 weeks later, she called me and she's like, I had no idea how much I hated those veins. I keep going in the mirror every morning to put makeup on them. And she's like, and they're gone. She's like, thank you so much for making me do it. She didn't even realize it was bothering her that much because it was just so subconscious for her to put makeup on it every morning. And
you get used to it.
Yeah, the same thing with redness. I'll see people who are red and they just put their makeup on to cover the redness. And we'll talk later on about the treatment that I did yesterday. So I actually had a treatment on my face for rosacea because I keep mine in maintenance or enhancement, as Larry would like to say, where I know that I'll always have it, but I make sure that mine's always pre-rosacea, so I'm not actually red. I'm a little pinkish red today from the treatment, But I do maintenance all the time for it. And now I don't have to wear makeup to cover up that redness. So
I have a friend. He lives in Minnesota, plays golf all summer in Minnesota, comes down, visits us on his way to Palm Springs.
To play golf in Palm Springs.
To play golf all winter or whatever in Palm Springs. And he lives on a lake. And so, there's almost no time of the year that he's not getting a tremendous amount of sun for years, and he's old, like me.
I'm going to tell him you said that.
So, the thing is, it's not going to go away. And when he stops to visit us for a couple days before going on to Palm Springs, I always tell him, I said, somebody who can actually treat that.
Yeah.
And can help you. But you need to stay out of the sun for a period of time.
Yep.
We need to be aggressive, and it's the staying out of sun. He's on his way to Palm Springs to do what? Play golf.
Yeah.
See, so, that's kind of been the issue is you have to give up one golf cycle or one summer or one, to really get it taken care of, because it's going to be multiple treatments, fairly aggressive treatments, like for him it would be, because he really does have some major size vessels on his face.
Yeah.
And you can see them everywhere. And again, he does not need alcohol or sun or heat or anything to expose them. You can see them with the naked eye. So, it's like, I give him a hard time about it all the time and, try to do something about it. And it's the type of thing, too, where I think a little bit of experience in treating those is important, because that's 100% target.
Oh, yeah.
So, when you're treating, no matter what device you're using, which is usually IPL or some other devices that we're going to talk about. But with IPL and things like that, it's going to get really hot. That target's going to get really hot. Controlling the heat, knowing how to do all that is very important. And so you want to be hot enough to kill the vessel, but not so hot you create a burn.
Yeah.
So those are the issues. And
Well, and eventually they go from being red to purple.
That's right.
And then it's a really big problem on trying to correct it with the devices.
Exactly.
Which we'll get into. But then what happens is you're at stage 1. Sometimes people will progress to stage 2. So if we throw up our stage 2 photo, stage 2 rosacea is known as papular and pustular, where you're getting these little acne bumps everywhere. Now, they're usually typically in the zone where there's redness. So cheeks, nose, chin, forehead. Wherever you're having rosacea and it's flared, you will now have what we consider acne on top of it, but it's actually the rosacea version of acne. It's not true acne. So we call them papules and pustules, where now you're older, you're in your 40s and 50s, because usually rosacea starts to rear its head between age 30 and 50. Not only are you red, but you have what looks like adult acne on top of it, which can be very frustrating.
And it's, again, more difficult to treat, because now you not only have the vascular component, but you actually have a sebaceous gland component. So, you have inflammation. You have all these other things going on where we're not just simply trying to kill some blood vessels. You actually have to deal with the inflammation, and you're having to deal with the sebaceous component of it.
Yeah.
A lot of people will call it papillary rosacea.
Yep.
And there are a lot of different treatment methods for it. In the old days, we used Levulan.
Yeah.
So, that goes after the sebaceous glands, and so it would close all that down and really simplify things for the patient, because now it did not look like you had acne. And so here you're 55 years old walking around with acne, full-blown acne on your face. That would solve that component of it.
But it still wouldn't address the issue where the lymphatics are getting congested due to the damage of the vasculature.
Exactly.
So you would still have to go in and correct this vasculature problem, which, if you end up with papillary rosacea, it will not happen to everybody, but it can, where you start to actually get hypertrophy of the cells due to the congestion of the lymph and the issues with the sebaceous glands, which leads us to stage 3. So if we want to throw up our Rhinophyma photo, because stage 3 is known as Rhinophyma. And so men and women, so this, I put a mild one up. So again, on the left is his before picture. That is Rhinophyma, where you start to get the big, chunky, lumpy nose, and it can happen on the face. The photo on the right is where he had to do a resurfacing or debridement of the tissue to get rid of that lumpy, chunky nose. W.C. Fields, I think, was most famous for having this. But, you know, it's out 1 in 12 who get Rhinophyma will be a woman. So it's more common in men. This big red nose has always been associated with, you know, Irish men who were alcoholics. But I will tell you, you can never drink a drop of alcohol in your life, but have uncontrolled rosacea, and you can still get Rhinophyma. So I always use these Rhinophyma photos as scare tactics for both men and women coming in with rosacea. It's not guaranteed to happen, but if you have rosacea and you don't eventually get it in control, you can end up with that nose. And trust me, when it starts to happen, it goes quickly. And Larry, I always like you to tell the story about a lady that you treated with Rhinophyma that was almost full face, right?
It was full face. I was invited to Dallas to do a resurface training for an office, and they had a relatively young female patient who had Rhinophyma of the entire face. And I had never seen that. Had seen Rhinophyma many times, but not. First of all, you know, female. That's
rare.
Very unusual, and the fact that it was the entire face, and so this was going to be very expensive for her if she went, you know, to a plastic or someone, and she actually had done that, and it came back. And she had spent, you know, every dime she had. So they had her come in, and we treated her for free. But I can tell you it's the most aggressive resurfacing treatment that I've ever done in my life. And you know, to take that down, to take all of that tissue down to normal. And my understanding from the office is that she, every time they see her, she is so appreciative, and it's been okay ever since. So what caused it? No clue, you know, for her. Yeah. So there are unusual things that happen. But Rhinophyma, there's a physician here in Scottsdale who showed me one of his Rhinophyma patient photos. And, I mean, it was huge, you know, bulbous nose. Where you literally did surgery plus resurfacing and, you know, over 2 different, you know, surgical procedures and things like that it had gotten so big. And I think you had mentioned on the pill popper. Yeah,
Dr. Pimple Popper had it on there not too long ago. That's what made me think about talking about this, because they were showing video or photos of Rhinophyma, and it is crazy once it starts to get out of control. And so what most people don't realize, though, is you have rosacea, and rosacea leads to it. However, if you keep your rosacea managed, you'll never end up there, because it's the issue with the sebaceous glands getting hypertrophied and the you know, destruction or the lack of the lymph flow in the area that leads to it. So it's very preventable. So that's a good thing. And I always tell my offices out there, your rosacea patients are a home run for keeping your business running, because they should be seeing you a couple times a year to keep it in control. Otherwise, it'll eventually get out of control because some of the triggers that we have, Larry. So what are things that trigger rosacea?
Well, I mentioned a few of them. You know, alcohol is a big one. Yeah. And people will come in saying, I've had a couple glasses of wine, or when I have some drinks, that I get red, and it's embarrassing. So, or I become more red. Yep. So that's obvious. Yeah. Exercise, you get, you know, exercise induced.
Cardio exercise.
Anything. You increase heart rate. You get hot. Yoga, hot yoga. Whoa. Yes. You know, it's like you're never going to want to do that, because you're guaranteed to be so red. Yeah,
because besides hot yoga, it's not just the exercise, but it's the excessive heat and excessive cold can both flare rosacea as well.
Exactly. So spicy foods could be one. Stress. Everyone seems to have some level of stress. No one at our office ever does. So it doesn't involve
I don't even know what you're talking about. Never heard that word before.
So stress is a biggie, you know, and who doesn't have some stress nowadays? So things like that. There's just so many different triggers, and it might be different from patient to patient. But when I do a consultation and I have a man... and
you forgot a big one.
Oh,
What do we always tell people that they can't do? Sun.
sun. Okay, that was taken for granted that everyone knew that.
I know, but we probably should mention that because that's a huge one for rosacea people. Obviously, the sun, exacerbates it and makes it worse. But yes, sun. Okay.
Yeah, don't stick your nose in the sun. Seriously, that's a major problem. Cover it up, put an umbrella over it, something. Mm-hmm. But we do warn patients about sun exposure all the time with everything, and there's that's just another one that can really enhance your problem, and of course that's not what you're wanting to do.
No, it always makes it worse. So the problem is with some of these things we can't completely avoid them. So I can tell patients to minimize your sun exposure, to avoid extreme hot and cold, to try to reduce stress in your lives, but I'm never going to tell patients to avoid cardio exercise because they need it for their heart and lungs. Caffeine can be a trigger, and I won't give up my coffee, so I'm not going to make other people give up their coffees either. So there's a lot of things that we can avoid to minimize it, like smoking, if you can get rid of it. Spicy foods, if you can get rid of it. Chocolate, if you can get rid of it. But if not, what are we going to do to correct it? So we've got multiple different things to do management for this. Because you were leaving it out, I threw the first one out there, and that's sun avoidance. So that means wear your sunscreen, on a daily basis. We live in Arizona. Obviously, if you're in Seattle and Portland and things like that, you may not need your sunscreen on a daily basis, only when you're going out on the boat and you need to reapply the sunscreen or wear a hat or cover the areas. Rosacea is not just face. You can have face, you can have neck, you can have chest, you can have arms. So wherever your rosacea is getting flared. And then minimize your triggers. So those are the first two. And Larry, what are some of the technologies that we like to use to correct rosacea?
I'm going there, but I want to add one thing.
Go for it.
If you are a male, you're between 50 and 60 years old, and you have Irish, take a look. I mean, just statistically. Irish or English. Statistically, you are a prime candidate for this, Rhinophyma. And so don't wait. You start getting a little pink, you start getting some redness, go get that taken care of, because otherwise you could very well end up with Rhinophyma.
Yeah.
It's just that's the way it is. And you don't have to have it at all. So that's important.
Yep, that's my goal. That's why I keep mine in control. Because after you saw that lady, it's like I had fear struck in my heart.
Yeah.
I don't ever want to look like that.
You got to do something. Mm-hmm. There are different ways of treating, and there are new ways coming out all the time, which we are going to discuss in some detail. But, the standby for this for many, many years, of course, number one, try to eliminate the triggers will help.
Yeah.
Get out of the sun and, try to back off some of the triggers once you know what it is that's really making things worse. But the other thing is Photofacial has been around for many, many years. Dr. Bitter Sr. and Jr. created, Photofacial, really invented that whole thing many years ago, and it has been probably the mainstay for rosacea for many, many years.
And how is Photofacial treating rosacea?
Well, it's going after the vascular nature of rosacea. So you can actually kill the vessels, and again, we've talked before about killing vessels. You have a moving target. Blood is a moving target, but you can actually go in and kill those vessels. And as you kill those vessels, you're killing what's causing you to be red. Mm-hmm. And I know a lot of dermatologists will use skincare products and things like that. And there's always sensitivity involved when you have rosacea, but a lot of dermatologists kind of go in that direction because maybe they're not on the cosmetic side. They don't have lasers, they don't have whatever, and that is perfectly great start. But for a lot of people, the vessels are there. You need to do something about them. Well,
yeah, because once they're damaged and bloated open, you're not going to get rid of them unless you treat them. So let's put up our before and after of the neck. So this is using the Cyton BBL to treat rosacea. And again, face, neck, chest. So look at this neck. I call them my red necks, right? So we were talking about golfers. Again, on the left is the before. All the redness, all those broken blood vessels, walking around with the red neck on a regular basis. Cyton BBL, the after on the right, the vessels are gone. Those vessels are not needed. Your body is not using them to feed the skin. they are bloated open and damaged, and your body's already ignoring them, like this is not working for blood flow. So getting rid of them does not cause harm. It's only helping you to have better, healthier skin by not wasting blood flow in blood vessels that aren't doing anything.
That's correct.
Yeah, and so then let's put up our next before and after, which is before and after of the face. So these are the red faces that we're talking about, that when men, this is a mild version where they start out and they're just red. So that man, again, on the left, he was not working out. He did not have any alcohol. And then that's his after with being treated with the Cyton BBL. I mean, he now has normal skin tone all over versus looking like he's been sunburned or something happened to him when that's just what he was looking like on a regular basis. And these treatments, Larry, is there a lot of downtime for them? You know, what's involved with getting a photofacial for our patients who haven't listened to our other podcasts?
Well, the photofacial has been around forever. It is the mainstay of improving the overall skin appearance. And so photofacial is usually done in a series. It may be once every 3 or 4 weeks. Typically for rosacea, it may be 4 treatments, 5 treatments, maybe even 6 treatments to completely clear it. And the process is you put some gel on the skin and you use a device that's called IPL or BBL for Cyton. And that energy simply goes in and it targets the oxyhemoglobin in the vessel. And so it's actually going down to the vessel. It's going to heat up the blood, and you are literally coagulating a moving target in the vessel itself, and it causes the destruction of that vessel. It's kind of simple terms. That's what it's doing. And over time, those vessels will start to disappear.
Yep. And let's put up before and after of telangiectasias. So you can keep talking. So you're right. Within time, these vessels will disappear. So
Exactly.
Look at those huge broken blood vessels on the side of the face. This is an easy, no downtime treatment, and you get rid of it. And now instead of looking like you have a road map on the side of your face with these dark purple vessels, it's just smooth, normal skin color.
That's right. So this is easy to do, and to not be doing it is, again, we look at that as crazy because it's only going to get worse.
Yeah.
They will become Godzilla. They will take over your face. So, why? Why wouldn't you take care of something like this that is so obvious to everyone?
Yeah.
And there's no way that you have rosacea like this and people aren't saying something.
Yes. Yeah.
Right? I
Yeah,
mean, you know it. And you come in, and so if you come into my office and without any diagnostic technology or anything else, and you're sitting across from the desk from me, and you are that red, I mean, we already know what we're going to do.
Oh, yeah.
We'll go ahead and document it and photograph and show you some things that you can't see with a normal mirror, But I think it's important that everyone understand you don't have to have this and you should not have this, and please do something about it while you can.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, the photofacial has been the standard of care for rosacea for years besides topical. But Larry, I want to talk about the BBL Hero. This is something new that has come up. And maybe we can put up our video of BBL while you start to talk about the Hero.
Yeah, I mean, the Hero is unbelievable because you're delivering so much more energy faster, and yet it's more comfortable.
So this is Photofacial in motion that he is doing. He's actually treating my chest there because I have rosacea on, again, face and chest. But look at how fast it's moving and how easy it is to have done.
So even as large as her chest is,
Oh my gosh.
I had to say that.
I knew you were going to go there.
I had no choice. This is so relatively fast to do, and you're, again, more energy in a shorter period of time. There's more cooling is built into it. The outcomes are so beautiful with doing this. And, why you wouldn't do that, I have no understanding at all. Not everyone has that device yet. I'm assuming that over time everybody will get one.
Yeah.
Because if you can do a chest, arms, legs, whatever, in such a short period of time and do it with less impact to the patient.
Yeah.
And again, no downtime.
Yeah.
So, Why you wouldn't do that, I don't know. It just makes it easier to treat not just face, neck, and chest, but the whole body.
And if you want to learn more about BBL Hero, we do actually have a podcast that's on it so that you guys can go and listen to that specifically and learn more about that in motion. But Larry's right. With BBL, there's no downtime. There's, it's easy to have done. It's a little uncomfortable in the treatment, I'm not going to lie, but it's not terrible. It's not something that people need drugs or numbing for. It's very easy to do. However, BBL historically has only been best for the rosacea patients in Fitzpatrick skin types 1 through 4. Typically, that's where rosacea will find, but even 4s can be a little scary or hard to treat sometime. So, Larry, what are some of the newer technologies that have come out recently that are safe for all Fitzpatrick skin types that we can actually treat rosacea with as well?
Well, what's been exciting for us at our clinic is all the new technology that has come out in the last few years. And I tell everyone that comes in that we've probably seen a bigger advance in technology in the last 3 years than we did in the previous 10 to 15 years.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just what the technology is doing today, we weren't even thinking about, 4 or 5 years ago. It couldn't happen. And, the Hero in motion is an example of that, and many others. So radio frequency with microneedling has been around now for 7 years, 5, 6, 7 years. It's been out for a long time, and there's a lot of companies out there that have radio frequency with microneedling, and we have a couple systems that we absolutely love, and they're actually sort of related to each other. One is called Scarlet. And we got Scarlet about 3 years ago. Absolutely love it. Works fantastic. And the new one is called Silfirm, Silfirm X.
Yes.
Kind of a big brother, if you will.
Yep.
So they both do treatments that we can't always do because of sun exposure.
Yes.
Or because of skin types. So this allows us to go in and heat up the vascular, heat up pigment, heat up things safely in a way that we cannot do perhaps with IPL or BBL.
Yeah.
And so it gives us an option, and that option is huge considering we live in Phoenix. And you have sun-exposed people. I mean, how does anyone come in and say, I never have any sun?
I know. I'm a vampire and I avoid the sun, but obviously I still get sun exposure, which is why yesterday I actually had the Silfirm X done because I've been in the sun, but I like to maintain my rosacea. As it starts to flare, I get the redness through my cheeks. I get the redness on my chest. I get the redness actually really badly on my arms. My arms are probably the ones that bother me the most. But as we're talking about the Scarlet, so the Scarlet was created by Dr. Na, and it is an RF microneedling. So when the needles penetrate down into the skin, they emit radio frequency from the tip, and then it propagates up and out and heats all of the tissue, both deep dermis for skin tightening as well as superficial tissue. And what it's doing is the studies have shown that it is actually creating coagulation of the vasculature, these little microvasculature vessels that are dilated open, so that you can effectively close down superficial damaged blood vessels with RF microneedling, or at least I know you can with the Scarlet because there are studies that show that.
And the Silfirm X. So what's interesting is it's got 25 needles. And the 25 needles go down into the tissue. And do we have a video on that, or is that down
Actually,
the road?
We will in just a moment. But yeah, we will when we do the Silfirm. So let's finish talking about the Scarlet, and once we get to the Silfirm, I'll do that.
All right. So what happens is all of those little needles deliver the energy to that area. It's bipolar. Each one is basically connected to each other through electrical current. And what that's doing is coagulating that blood and that activity. If you're using it for something else, it may be contracting tissue or collagen. So what is so nice about it is who we can use it on. We have a lot more skin types that we can use it on. We can use it on sun exposed, even though we highly recommend no exposure. But you can do some things safer with it in different times of the year, and it is a beautiful treatment to help get rid of the red, which Anne had yesterday.
Yes. Yeah, so let's go ahead and put up that Silfirm animation video. So this is going to show where the needles are penetrating in and they are closing down that superficial microvasculature. And so one of the things that makes Silfirm different from any other RF microneedling out there is that it's able to target the 300 micron depth at the dermal epidermal junction. And that's where some of these damaged and bloated open blood vessels are. So we're actually targeting it right at the area where they are damaged. And so we are able to treat them, have them clear out without having to worry about, again, sun exposure. It doesn't matter if they've had it recently. It doesn't matter if they're a darker Fitzpatrick skin type. We don't have to worry about burning them. We don't have to worry about hypopigmentation. But we are actually going to be able to address the redness issues. And so this has been a game changer for me in the practice where I can now treat my patients during the summertime and help to maintain their rosacea, even if I know I have to work around their sun exposure. And the other benefit is besides treating the blood vessels, we're getting collagen production. So you can see we're increasing collagen at the same time as closing down the blood vessels. So your patients are kind of getting a 2-for-1 when we are doing the RF microneedling treatments.
And I think we'll find over time that these type of technologies start to take over more and more in the industry. They are very safe. You can do different things with them. You can, what depth you want to go, how long you want energy on, how much energy you want on, and so that gives us a huge advantage. Now, Dr. Na is known worldwide, South Korean physician who was involved in developing both, or was responsible for developing both systems.
Yes.
He will be at our clinic in a few weeks.
Yeah.
And we're going to do everything we can to see if we can't structure a podcast, one of these televised, with Dr. Na. And let him talk about the Silfirm X and what it does, and how it all started with Scarlet and what that does. And I mean, these are beautiful systems, and both systems can be literally run all day long at a clinic for numerous issues from head to toe. It's not limited to face or neck or chest. I mean, you can go pretty much anywhere on the body with it, and we love both of them.
Yeah, and let's put up our Silfirm treatment video while we continue to talk about it, because I agree. These are easy treatments to have done. We use them for skin tightening. So again, you can treat anywhere on the body from head to toe. You don't have to worry about wearing eyewear because this is radio frequency, so you don't have to worry about damage to cornea or retinas while you're doing it. That video was courtesy of Diane Duncan, so that was her actually treating a patient at the time. But we have multiple systems in our office now because this is the one that runs all day long. Whether we are treating face, like I had yesterday, so I had it for rosacea. Sierra did my face, she did my chest, she did my arm. So that way I was closing down some of that microvasculature that is getting bloated open to the top because I want to continue to fight my redness. When I'm not in the sun, more so over the winter time, I'll be doing my BBL treatments. So personally, I do 2 RF microneedlings and 2 BBLs every year to keep my rosacea in control. And that's why most people who meet me, when I tell them I have rosacea, they will be like, what? No, you don't. You're not red. And they don't think that I can understand where they're coming from, but it's because I stay on top of it. Now, besides treating the rosacea, our RF microneedlings are used for a million other things. But since today we were focusing on that, I really wanted to bring up the Silfirm X because this has been a game changer in that. The Scarlet was my first game changer where, let's talk about the difficulty, Larry, of treating one of those men who is not only so red, but pretty much purple. Why is that difficult to treat with a photofacial?
Well, the targets are so aggressive and so big that every time you fire a laser IPL device on it, the heat that is created is enormous. And so the concern, of course, is safety.
Yeah.
You want to do treatments that are going to get the results because, no one pays you for your effort. They pay for results, right? I mean, is that correct?
That's true.
they want a nice outcome, and I think we need to understand that. So first off, we need to get a good outcome, but you need to be safe in that process. You know, it's not going to do any good to get rid of it and hurt the patient in the process, where now you're trying to fix something else.
Yeah.
And so these devices have come to play more and more in our practice because they make it safe for us to be able to do more things, and still be fairly aggressive about it.
Yeah, and so basically what he's saying is when you have that many targets, you know, the way a photofacial works is we're using heat to close them down. Well, if every single target absorbs the heat, you have so much heat that the skin can't cool itself, and then you'll blister. So what we've started doing is when we get these gentlemen in, or it can be ladies too, with a lot of targets, we will do an RF microneedling first with either a Scarlet or a Silpherm X to coagulate and close down some of those vessels, bring them back a couple weeks later, and then we can get more aggressive with the BBL and do it safely without blistering them. So it's allowed us to help these patients and keep it safer for us so we're not as high risk of blistering. And then we can, you know, really tackle their huge problem that they have. And to be honest, I have done a Scarlet before for treating eye bags, and then I treated the gentleman's whole face, and he had a purple nose, and his nose got better from the color. And that, besides reading the studies, that was my true wow moment where I was like, this really does work. His nose turned from purple to a red color. So I coagulated those vessels just with skin tightening. Now you take the Silpherm X, which targets the 300 micron depth and has settings specific for rosacea. And I mean, it is a game changer.
And anytime you can do combination therapy. So what was the idea? Do a little bit of Silpherm X first, maybe 1 or 2 treatments. You're now making BBL or photofacial safer down the road so that you can be a little more aggressive with it and still get good outcomes safely.
Yeah.
So combination therapy, and you can do every other time, or you can do a couple in a row, however you want to do it. But every time you do it, you also get the benefit of collagen.
Yeah.
And that's with both devices.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and that's why I had mine done yesterday, is not only to, you know, I need the maintenance, but for people to be able to actually see, like, I don't really look that bad. Like, I have mild redness, a little bit right here. Most people on the video will be like, there's nothing wrong with her, but easy. I mean, I have no downtime. I have no crusty. I have no peely. And I was in the sun a couple weeks ago, so I couldn't photofacial. However, I wanted to do something. So then Sierra did my face last night, and I can go to work today. I can go to the grocery store. People probably won't even notice I've had anything done. So the other benefit of this is it's very easy for patients to have done, and you can introduce them into the world of how to maintain or correct their issues without scaring them off by making it really painful or having scary side effects afterwards.
Did everyone hear that she was in the sun a couple weeks ago? I don't know. Do we question that? We probably should.
I had sunscreen on, but I was still in the sun.
Oh.
So I reapplied my sunscreen, which is why I don't actually have tan lines, but I was still in the sun.
You can't avoid sun. And so when somebody says, I never get any sun, I mean, unless you're literally living in a cave, a vampire, or whatever, you know, you're going to get some sun, especially, you know, in the southern states.
Yeah.
And so, you know, sometimes we assume you're getting some sun. You may be in your car. You're still getting sun, you know, and so UVA goes right through glass, and we're assuming that.
Yeah.
So I think it's important that we understand that this is going to happen in many offices, and what can we still do? What can we still treat? How can we help this patient? How can we get the results that are going to make the difference for them?
Yep. Yeah. And so I think that's going to pretty much bring us to the close of our podcast for today, because we've talked about what rosacea is, where it comes from, the triggers that cause it. Maintenance is going to be your sun avoidance, using your proper products, and you have to do some kind of treatment on a regular basis. So before we wrap up today, Larry, what's your last word of advice for our listeners?
Puts me on the spot.
I like to do that.
I think your likelihood of getting what you want is directly proportional to how bad you want it. And so let's think about it. You know, do you want the red? Do you want to get rid of the red? Do you know, I don't think anyone that has rosacea is walking around saying, oh, yeah, I love it. You know, that's not happening. And, you know, we talked in the previous presentation here, we talked about hair restoration. Same thing. If you want to do something, the more the want, the more likely it happens. And I think it's important to go ahead and build that want and do it and then get it done and get it taken care of. It just seems like every single time people do that, they always say the same thing. I wish I had done it sooner.
Oh, yeah.
So, it's all good, but sometimes, and we try to help with that, but you've got to want it on your end. And if you do, it comes out for the better.
I agree. And so, if you really want it taken care of, now's the time to take some action, get it taken care of before it turns into a rhinophyma and you have a huge problem to correct that's a lot harder to come back from.
Exactly.
But I think that wraps us up for today. So thank you guys for all joining us for both video and podcast, and we hope to see you again next time.
Bye-bye.